Sorry, I cut you off, Eric. You were saying I love you. I cut you off on the last session. Bad mommy.
He says, I love you.
I love you too.
You
All
can't cut me off. You know that.
right. I'm going to let you choose between two topics today, Eric. One is there's scientists are talking about there's a mini ice age coming that could last like 200, 250 years, that this heat conveyor belt in the Atlantic Ocean may be fizzling out or something like that. So we might talk about that, or how to tap into free energy, like scarcity is an illusion. Everything's abundant. There's endless energy out there. What is it called? Point zero energy field or something like that. I should have looked it up first. But which of those do you want to go into?
He's connecting to the latter of the two.
Okay.
And when you said I should have looked it up, he's like, it's all right, I got your back.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so let's see here. He says, first he wants to talk about the concept of scarcity versus abundance.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going like this, like how you see it, what you perceive. There's no such thing as scarcity. And he's going like this. He's like, how many people am I going to piss off by saying that? He says, it's a matter of perspective and reaction, how you react to something.
So is this how you pronounce it in Ohio? You say scarcity instead of scarcity? Mm-hmm. Oh, so maybe it's a Texas thing to say scarcity.
Oh, yeah.
We pronounce things all sorts of weird ways here. We do.
So do I. But yeah, he's showing like, first of all, okay, so he actually started to hit on this in, I want to say it was the New York event. And it kind of blew my mind, but I didn't have time to really like open up to him and go there. So he's reminding me of that. And I'll just give a quick example. I went outside for a break in between the classes and workshops and stuff, and was just sitting there. And when I tune in and I channel, after I channel, like when I'm not channeling for a while, my senses are hyper sensitive. My hearing is almost uncomfortable because, you know, everything seems so loud. No, my dog's trying to jump up here.
Aww.
But then I was sitting there and like this car, you know, it was hot out. So this car motor, like the fan would turn on and then off, kick on. And I was like, oh my God, that's so annoying. And then the birds were chirping, then the water fountain. And I was like, geez, you know, the sound.
Oh my God, how weird.
And Eric was like, but look at how you're reacting. He was like, you're reacting by being annoyed or whatever. Instead, he says, use this to your benefit. And I was like, what do you mean? Well, I had just got done doing a workshop on tapping into, like, I guess you could call it that, like free energy sources for your own abundance. Because he was like, Kim, understand that the universe, no matter where you are or what you're hearing, the universe or seeing, the universe is always providing what you need to be at your best. So if I were to accept, you know, the frequencies of that waterfall, or the frequencies of that annoying car, or this guy next to me that cracked his pop top, and I'm like, you know, oh my God, all of these sounds were vibrations that I needed to be replenished, basically. Is what he was saying.
All right.
So it's like abundance. Abundance is always there. Energy abundance, whether it's in sight, like, wow, the grass looks nice and green today. Well, absorb that vibration, absorb that energy. But he says now, looking at like 0.0 or being at that almost kind of like what I was texting you about last night. He's just started talking to me about this. Somehow he says it will fit in this conversation. Becoming transparent, allowing yourself to be transparent, is like that 0 point. And when you get neutral enough in your environment, you become in your environment instead of it. So
Ah.
you, when you exist in that plane, in that state, you're like a you're like a hole. He says you're like a hole where anything can come through you, but what he means is like a channel.
Okay.
So really become transparent in a sense that no attachments means you exist. If you can open yourself up enough to detach from anything and everything, then you become sort of omnipresent. You become where you can open up to and connect to anything and everything for your greatest good.
So disconnect from all your negative thoughts, even your positive thoughts. Just disconnect from everything.
Come on, Benny's going to jump up here and join us. This is Benny.
Hey, Benny.
He says not just your thoughts. He says, yep, that's one place to disconnect, but I mean, thoughts is a huge part of it. Thoughts are a huge part of it, but even with your culture, your cultural beliefs, your religious standings, your lifestyle, where you can really become transparent and allow yourself to exist in anything or within anything. We have such ways of he says, secluding ourselves or trapping ourselves by saying, well, I'm this kind of person, this is what I like to do, this is where I spend my time. And when we can let go of all of that,
all the labels, everything, labels, comparisons, thoughts, just disconnect from everything, and then you will tap into point zero. Well, maybe we should back up and explain what is point zero, the energy field, that endless source of energy.
He says pure consciousness, where you've superseded, you've transcended just consciousness in the physical realm, like the dense lower basic self. It's pure consciousness in the sense of not being attached to earthly things, like lower vibrational material existence, knowing existence of self outside of, beyond, and in between all of that, in between all those spaces. So point zero is a place of pure consciousness where he says, Mom, he's actually going into talking about how frequently people hit point zero, but they can't handle it. He says, they get overwhelmed because you easily, this is where you see people, okay, let's back up. He says, point zero is where pure consciousness is. Pure consciousness is access to everything.
Oh.
And anything, no limits. And he's talking about not just in the physical, but in the non-physical realms. So he says people pass through this point all the time. Number one, it's very hard to maintain because it takes focus, it takes self-discipline. But he says it's very overwhelming. That's where you can tap into conversations that are happening on the other side of the world. That's where you can project your consciousness to another place on the other side of the world. So this is the place of infinite knowing of self, infinite self, and experiencing all capabilities that exist there. So he keeps using the word divine too. It's very divine because there's no negativity here. There's no disappointment, nothing like that. It's just it's very still. It's very quiet. He takes me into.
Let me tell you the perspective also of Nassim Haramein, a brilliant theoretical physicist. He said that matter, of course, is composed of atoms, and you look at this cup and it's made of atoms. But if you were go into those atoms, 99% or maybe 99.9% is not the neutron and proton and electron. It's empty space, but that empty space is actually full of energy. It's pure energy. So in other words, there's just abundant pure energy everywhere, including even in solid matter. So that's what I'm wondering, if we could ever tap into that and harness it and use it. If we could use it, then we wouldn't need gasoline cars and all that stuff. Will we ever be able to tap into that pure consciousness? I guess is pure energy also. So I guess we're talking about the same thing, but will we ever be able to tap into that? And maybe you can enlighten me as to what the difference is, or if there is a difference between pure consciousness and that space between all particles that is not empty, that is full of just pure energy.
He's so silly. He goes, "That's where I exist." Like that's what he did with his hand. He just threw it up. He says, "That's where I exist."
You're in the mug, in the pure, in between the atoms of the pure of the solid mud.
Yeah, and he says when you look at objects, solid objects with, solid matter, like my computer right now is sitting on a huge singing bowl. So when you look at that, he says, "It is, Mom." And he said empty space the same time you said it. Mm. But the energy is pure. That pure energy is immortal. People are already tapping into it. That's the essence of where life force comes from. And then he says, he's like throwing his hands up. He says, and then we all, we fuck it up with our negative connotations instead of because when we get all mixed up in our own mind and our own thoughts, we're not at a place where we can absorb that pure energy. We become our thoughts, or we become consumed by them, and it's a place of non-consciousness, or being asleep, not awake. He says, when you understand, I see the theme now. When you understand, like sacred geometry, he says, how everything's connected, and you take responsibility and can quiet the mind, connect to even a rock. He's like, I don't give a shit. Go pick up a rock and connect to it. Has matter. I mean, it exists. So there's energy there too. And he says, when you connect to that pure energy, it's everything. It's in everything. But as humans, he's kind of laughing because we think we're like, at the top of the level as far as like in hierarchy, animals are below us, plants and stuff. He's like, but it's quite the opposite as far as consciousness. Like with plants and different things have much more capability to just exist in that free energy space, that pure space of energy and consciousness. And two, again, because of sacred geometry, that's why you see the environment affected, because it's connected to us and to our vibration and our energy. But so he kind of wants to give some tips on how to connect to that energy.
Okay.
He says, first of all, when you do, I don't want you to give away your personal power, thinking like some other object has something that you don't. Because when you can really neutralize from everything, from fears, worries, hopes, aspirations, and dreams, when you can really neutralize and quiet the mind completely, you already exist there. Mm-hmm. You exist because of it. So he says, this kind of, he's actually going into like energy workers. They think they have to draw on or pull energy from somewhere else to help someone. But rather see yourself as a conduit where you open up, you connect, it's naturally there. It naturally flows and happens. So, but then too, Mom, he says a lot of people give away their energy. They think they're supposed to. So then they feel drained and they feel like shit when they're done or whatever. But even if it's just a regular person that's not doing energy healing, don't look at it as like you're taking something from something else, like from your environment, like I'm going to tap into the free energy of this tree or this plant or whatever. It's everywhere. So you basically allow yourself to exist in it. So you don't necessarily pull from something else. Okay. You just allow yourself to exist within it.
Sort of tap into it without sucking it.
Yeah, and then you become. I mean, that's where he's like showing like the cap of the mind, like the top of the head coming off. Like that's where the mind really opens up. That's where consciousness really is. He says you could, I don't know if we could even get into that.
We might
He
need
literally
another
shows me,
session about free energy.
yeah, he knelt down and I can even feel it, like it's so vivid. Um, he's teasing me. He goes, well, if you were really good, you could smell it too. But basically, we're on a beach, and I can see he's like kneeling down, and he has one little granule of sand, and he's like, you could become this grain of sand if you would allow yourself. This is pure consciousness understands that when you go into that neutral point, that 0 point, you can allow your consciousness to like shift your consciousness into a grain of sand. You can become it. You can become that mountain, he says, whatever it may be. But you allow yourself. But Mom, that's the hard part. He says, so many people say, well, yeah, but what about this? Or how do I that? And when you can even stop asking the questions and make your way through that and just be, that's pure consciousness. That's where all of this started. That's where all of this is.
All right. Well, last question because we're out of time. And just say yes or no, I guess. Will mankind be able to tap into this endless abundance of free energy and harness it for our energy needs? They might be already working on it. I don't know.
He says yes. I feel like efforts, like scientists and efforts are already working along those lines, to know that, that everything is energy, everything has energy. So now how to cultivate it or harness it to be productive with it. But I feel like it's going to be some time yet before we could actually
and you can also use it. You can also use it to with your thoughts and that energy to mold that energy into reality. So I bet you anything, people who manifest easily probably can tap into that 0.0 energy field and manipulate the energy to create their reality. Is that true?
Yeah, he says that's how people manifest whatever it is that they want, with intentions. A lot of people manifest things that they didn't realize they manifested.
Okay.
But with intentions, like they allow themselves to go there mentally, emotionally, and exist there. They allow their consciousness and their reality to exist there. They accept it.
Okay.
So it's kind of like just taking the veils off yourself and saying, why not? Why can I not be there?
Okay.
So,
all right, you just have to allow it to happen. All right, that's awesome. Thank you. We're a little bit over time. And bye, Benny.
I'll see you.
See you soon.
He's like, bye.
Oh, cutie pie. Hi, Benny. Hi, Benny.
He's my buddy.
Oh. Okay. Bye, Erik. Hi, Benny. You're a cutie pie. You should bring him.
Oh, he's crazy.
Well, so is Bella.
I can't wait to meet yours. I can't wait to meet yours.
You will. She's going to be a little overwhelmed, I bet, by all the people, but we'll see. Bye, everybody. Stay tuned for the information on how to get in touch with Kim. Bye.
Sounds good. Bye-bye.